Coming up next on Making Moves, JTA lays out its future plans for the public. Find out what's on the drawing board. We'll break down the JTA budget and show you where the money comes from to fund all your transportation needs. We'll check in on the progress of the new Clay County Multi-Modal Transit Center and how JTA is helping one local agency save lives. I'm Joyce Morgan Danford. Stay tuned for those stories and much more next on Making Moves. Welcome to Making Moves. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Joyce Morgan Danford. JTA Executive Director and CEO Michael Blaylock will be joining me in just a moment. Our top story, JTA offers the public a look into the future. The authority is constantly looking ahead, planning transportation for the next generation. And one day in late July, it gave the general public an insider's look into that future. One with commuter rail, streetcars, and buses with 10-minute frequency. Making Moves' Eugene Lindsay was one of the hundreds who took in the event and has all the details.
What is bus rapid transit? Is commuter rail coming to Jacksonville? And what about this so-called regional transportation center? They're all JTA initiatives, and while they may not mean much to you now, they could have a huge impact on North Florida in the not-too-distant future.
We're trying to show how important it is to look at all of the various modes and how they work, how they come together, and how they operate.
JTA Executive Director and CEO Michael Blaylock and his staff hosted a public forum to engage the community as the authority continues its plans for the future of transportation here.
To develop a robust multimodal system with different options that are well integrated so people can continue to move efficiently throughout the city, and that we have mobility and that we're contributing to the economic growth of the area.
This is where the public got a chance to see that JTA is a lot more than just buses. It's about total mobility for our region.
And in this area, it's actually large enough to be air conditioned, air controlled, and it's even large enough for moving walkways.
The strategic vision helps to show how JTA planners, engineers, and financial experts all work together now, preparing for future growth.
It's trying to emphasize to folks the importance of thinking about long-term future, how we're going to address transportation, really not as much for us as much for those coming behind us, our own children, as we look at the continued growth of the area.
But growth comes with many challenges.
It'll never be perfect, but we need to concentrate on people movement in simplistic form, not only to their jobs, but if we have a disaster, we get a hurricane and we have to evacuate, we got to be able to get out of Dodge quick.
But as Elaine Brown of the Regional Planning Council told us, it also comes with opportunity.
And I see the future definitely with, light rail and with buses that have Wi-Fi and with so many things that can help us in the future.
JTA believes it's important for citizens to understand that in this economic climate, both public and private partnerships will be critical for success in the future. After the tour, JTA invited the public to leave their comments and suggestions on the agency's vision for the future, allowing them to participate in shaping the transportation system for the next generation.
And we need to make sure that we're engaged with it, make sure we have citizen input into it, and that's what JTA has done here by opening up this to the community.
In downtown, Eugene Lindsay, JTA, Making Moves.
Let's bring in JTA Executive Director and CEO Michael Blaylock. Michael, why this event? It was wonderful.
Well, Joyce, the public needs to know, and it's all part of our outreach efforts to keep the public informed and gather their input in terms of what we're planning for the future.
The input was tremendous. The folks there, they were tremendous. Everybody came out and really enjoyed this. Were you surprised at how many actually attended?
Yes and no, because quite frankly, there are a lot of interest in terms of the future of Jacksonville, the future of the region, and people really want to know what's on the planning table. And so, it gave us a tremendous opportunity to talk directly with a lot of our customers and stakeholders. We had a lot of representatives from the Clay County and some of the surrounding counties, which I think it just went for a great moment for us to really hear exactly what was on their minds.
And they really, really loved the video. Every time you would see people, they would just sit down and they look at the video, sort of like I did. I must have just sat there for about 15 minutes looking at the same video. Were you surprised that they didn't know so much about JTA?
Yeah, the other thing, Joyce, I mean, this agency has been in existence for 57 years, and it brings a tremendous value to this community. And so we're able to get around because of events that we just participated in, that people are able to look into the future. We don't have all the dollars today to build a lot of these things, but we didn't have the money to build Danes Point when we first started planning Danes Point. We didn't have the money to build Butler Boulevard when we started planning Butler Boulevard. But the vision was there. And that's what's critically important for people to see what the general thinking is going into the future.
What about the feedback? What did people have to say?
Well, actually, they were excited, particularly about the commuter rail. The idea of being able to travel from Fernandina to Forsyth is Flagler County and coming into the major commerce area of Jacksonville. I mean, people were really excited that that kind of thinking was on the table. So you're talking about a 7-county region of people being able to access the major area like Duval County and travel within those counties. So they were really excited about the commuter rail. I got a lot of feedback on the bus rapid transit, the idea of being able to travel every 10 minutes, bus coming every 10 minutes, and all of this bells and whistles that go along with knowing exactly the time of your next bus and where it's going. So they were really excited to get an on-the-ground look at exactly what that future holds for them.
Okay, so you've unveiled the plans, you got some feedback. What's next?
Well, I think the other key part is to make sure that our plan is in full coordination with the planning of the other counties. So exactly how St. John County wants to build out, how does Nassau County want to build out, and making sure that our transportation network is fully coordinated so you can move around the entire region.
Okay, sounds good.
That's it.
It was fun, though.
Yeah, it was great.
Planning for the future also means ensuring there's enough money to do what you plan. JTA gets funding from several sources, but those monies are in constant jeopardy as belts are tightened everywhere. So the question is, where will the money be to pay for transportation services and projects in the future? Well, here's a look at what JTA gets in funding for both transit services and its road and bridge projects. Approximately 18% comes from fares and transit advertising. Federal grants and formula funding dollars go for both operational needs and capital projects. That totals a combined 26%. The balance of JTA's funding comes from 2 tax sources.
One is the 1/2 cent sales surtax that began back in 1989, and that was as a result of when the tolls were taken down in Duval County. This tax was put in place to help replace the income that we lost from not having any toll revenue. And then the last piece is the local option gas tax, which is about $28 million a year, about the same amount as the sales tax, and that is based on the 6 cents per gallon of gas sold in Duval County.
Now, Michael, I noticed that the city of Jacksonville wasn't mentioned, so that means we get no money from them.
Well, we get about $1.2 million that's contributed to the handicap service, the service we provide for the disabled. So that's on the dollars that we get from the city.
Okay, that's a big difference going down. Now, sales tax revenues are down across the board. The gas tax is set to expire in 4 years. Based on all of that, the future looks kind of bleak. Tell us it's not.
Well, it's not, Josh, because I think we're going to come together at some point. I mean, the funding transportation infrastructure is a national problem. It's not just a Duval County or a Jacksonville problem. I mean, we fund a lot of your federal highway projects with a federal gas tax, and a lot of your state road projects are funded by a state gas tax. So I think that the whole idea, the whole notion of a gas tax, we're going to have to rethink that. We're going to have to rethink how we fund infrastructure around the country. I mean, we're talking about, Joyce, some multi-trillion-dollar of needs around the country in terms of bridge replacements. I mean, Matthew Bridge is another example that at some point will have to be replaced. So, I mean, we have needs in all these communities in terms of how we're going to fund transportation. So I think we're just going to have to step back, change the model, and look at other ways to finance. And people talk about the private sector financing. That can work in a lot of ways, but at the same time, they have to be paid back. No private company is going to come in and build a facility for you and not get paid back.
Okay, and then that was going to be my next question. Other agencies around the country, they're looking at different sources.
Well, you know, I've heard anything from beer taxes, I've heard cigarette taxes. I mean, I've heard, and then you've got some places where they actually have a state income tax. I mean, there's just all kinds of ways, but I think as a community, we're going to have to come together at some point and figure out, because we have really enjoyed the advantage of having a mobile community. I mean,
right.
Josh, we get around pretty easy around in Jacksonville
yes,
right
we
now.
do, if you think about
and
it.
it came with a cost, and we made sacrifices to make that happen. So going into the future, I think we're really going to have to change that whole dynamic of how we fund public infrastructure.
And speaking of dynamics and things that could change the dynamics, what about the prospect of the Regional Transportation Authority? Does that complicate the situation just
actually
a little?
That's a key, because basically when you talk about the commuter rail system, I mean, that's a system that has to be financed from a regional perspective. And so rather than Duval County bearing the full load of a new mode like that, then we will share that expense or share that load with participating counties. So I think the regional thing really complements our ability to maintain mobility throughout the entire region.
Now, a lot of people may not use public transportation at all, and they feel like, why do they have to pay?
Well, if you're going to get around in this community, you're going to get around a couple of ways. Either you're going to drive your car, and as you well know, most of your infrastructure in this community was built by the JTA. So you're enjoying Butler Boulevard, you're enjoying Wonderwood Expressway, you're enjoying the Hart Expressway. All of those facilities were constructed by the agency based on an earlier sacrifice of putting tolls on those facilities. So going into the future, I mean, you got to get around this community, as I said earlier, by roads, or you can use the public transport system, or you can use a taxi cab. You're going to get around some way, somehow, and it's going to be paid for some way, somehow.
Okay, let's look at this. Earlier we heard Blair Fishburne explain the 6 cents on each gallon of gas tax that helps transportation. Now, you often hear a lot of people here in North Florida talk about Georgia, because Georgia doesn't have the high gas prices that we have, but they also pay income tax, state income tax, which we do not pay.
Do not pay. Joyce, that's an excellent point. Again, the citizens of Georgia decided to spread their costs or generate additional income through a state income tax. And you do not have a state income tax in Florida. But again, that points to the fact that community have decided to tax themselves, either as a state income tax or whatever, to finance what they need as a state. And so again, we're going to have to do the same thing. We're going to have to think about how we want to fund this. And I think a real dialogue, a real open dialogue from all parts of our community, all parts of our region will have to come together. And I think that regional effort that is underway now, I think it's going to propel us in a situation where we're going to have to come to the table and come up with a better solution than what we see today.
And it sounds like we're going to have to make some tough decisions.
Always tough decisions. What do you say? No pain, no gain.
No pain, no gain.
I think that's what we're going to have.
Okay. Coming up next on Making Moves, we'll tell you all about a major multi-year construction project near downtown. And then, what happens when thousands of magnet school students lose their transportation? Well, many turn to JTA. How the agency is preparing for the new school year when we come back.
There's no better place to be on game day than Everbank Field watching your hometown Jaguars. And there's no better way to get to the stadium than on the JTA Stadium Shuttle. Season passes start at just $56. Buy your season passes online at jtafla.com or at any home preseason Jacksonville Jaguars game. The JTA Stadium Shuttle. We've been all in for 18 consecutive years.
Finally, we had a weekend away, and we couldn't wait to see what Jacksonville had in store. We jumped into a cab and cruised downtown. They had a huge jazz fest, and everyone was dancing in the streets. We went to this Riverside Arts Market. There were all these farmers with local fruits and vegetables, and just amazing. We had a private wine tasting, and then we were off to this beer fest, where the locals just took us in and made us feel like one of them. The Skyway was a pretty cool way to see the city. We escaped on a water taxi with views that were just spectacular. Then we plunged back into the city for the game of a lifetime. Thing is, we didn't get away from anything. We got away to everything. Have your biggest weekend ever. Visit Jacksonville.
That was awesome. We live in a global community where information can be delivered instantly. But having access to information and getting accurate information don't necessarily go hand in hand. That's where we come in. We are Making Moves, the First Coast's premier source for transportation news. At Making Moves, we strive to deliver timely, reliable, and pertinent information about the transportation stories that affect our community. From transit to roads, we've got it covered. Making Moves, now on Facebook.
You're watching JTA Making Moves, honored by the American Public Transportation Association with its 2011 AdWheel Award.
Welcome back to Making Moves. Last year, Duval County Schools cut transportation to 7 of its magnet schools. Well, that left more than 5,000 middle and high school students looking for a way to get to school. About 1,400 of those students found out that JTA could get them to class safely, on time, and at a fraction of the cost of some other options. Now, as a new school year looms, those same schools are still without school-sponsored transportation, and JTA is once again stepping up to meet the challenge. JTA staff has been meeting with both parents and students at all 7 affected magnet schools to help determine if using JTA is an option for them. While private carriers are charging in excess of $1,200 a year to transport students, a JTA Youth Pass is only $30 a month for unlimited rides. Well, construction on the new Clay County Multi-Modal Center is moving right along. Initially, the center, located along County Road 220 and Sleepy Hollow Road in the Fleming Island area of Clay, will feature express bus service between Clay and Duval counties. Eventually, officials hope to expand the center into a commuter rail station, and the county also wants to add a county office building on the site to service residents in that part of the county. The Multi-Modal Center is expected to be completed by the end of the year. Meanwhile, an existing JTA Park-n-Ride facility is getting a makeover. This lot at JTB and Phillips Highway is getting a new surface parking lot and a new entrance directly from JTB. The upgraded facility will be part of the new bus rapid transit system in the southeast portion of the city. One of the reasons JTA switched to a new fare collection system was to give its customers more options. One such group is area college students. Until now, JTA was limited in the number of schools that could participate in its College Pass program. Now, that's all changed. Students at Florida State College of Jacksonville can now buy the College Star Card and receive a discount on their fare. The FSCJ program began last year as a pilot at the Kent campus. Now all FSCJ students can buy JTA passes right on campus. FSCJ is the 3rd area college now using JTA's College Pass program. In the very near future, a major road project will change the look in the San Marco area. The Florida Department of Transportation is going to tear down the old, worn-out I-95 Overland Bridge and replace it with a new and better structure. After 5 decades, the Florida Department of Transportation was looking to make some upgrades to the heavily traveled I-95 Overland Bridge in San Marco.
When we started looking at it, our original intent was just to replace what we call the superstructure, the top part of the bridge.
James Bennett is an FDOT Urban Transportation Development Manager. He says further inspection revealed repairing the bridge was no longer an option.
It was designed back in the 1950s. It has gotten past its useful life, and the substructure, the part that goes down to the ground, the piers, just wasn't designed to handle the capacity that we are experiencing today.
and it needs a new configuration. After years of discussion, Bennett says a plan is ready.
The final project is a project that has new southbound and northbound collector distributor roadway systems that improves access to and from the interstate. It improves the mainline flow of I-95, so once you come over the Fuller Warren Bridge, you have improved flow to continue south. It provides a brand new interchange at Atlantic.
A new interchange will also allow motorists to access both Atlantic Boulevard and Phillips Highway from I-95 both north and southbound. The $156 million project also removes the challenge of getting to San Marco from I-95.
Right now, if you're on I-95 and somebody in the San Marco area is trying to direct somebody how to get to them, they have to get them off take them off at Emerson, direct them over to Phillips to come north, and the same thing in the return trip. It's very hard to get back to I-95. But with this new interchange, as we finish this project and open up that new interchange, it is direct access straight into Phillips Highway, direct access right on into San Marco area.
As with any new project, you can expect some delays and even some detours. But DOT officials tell us that once this project is completed, the improvements and the new configuration will be worth all the inconvenience.
So it is a balancing act of how much work we can do during the daytime versus nighttime, minimizing the impacts to the public, the traveling public, the adjacent businesses, the adjacent homeowners. So it's a real balancing act to try to deliver a project of this magnitude in such a tight, confined space.
In fact, the project was supposed to last 5 years, but was revised after concerns from businesses and residents. Now, DOT officials say it'll take about 3.5 years with fewer phases.
We intend to keep all the travel lanes open on the interstate that's open today. We intend to keep those through lanes open throughout the duration of the project. So there will be sometimes there will be some delays and inconveniences because of the construction itself, but the overall number of travel lanes we expect to be able to keep open and operational to minimize the impacts.
The Overland Bridge project is expected to begin in January. Well, still to come on Making Moves, how JTA is helping the American Heart Association save some lives. We'll be right back with that story.
When you've been around as long as we have, you learn to take some punches. You learn you're not always going to get it right. But the most important thing is to remember why you're here and to never quit trying. When they said we were building the bridge to nowhere, we didn't just throw up our hands and quit. No, we kept going. And when they told us not to build the new road to the beach, that there was nothing out there, we had the vision to see what it could be. You see, sometimes you have to go against the conventional wisdom and trust your gut. It's important to believe in yourself and know that you're doing the right thing even when people don't always share your vision. There are times when our vision has been years ahead of its time. We don't let that stop us either. We keep our eyes focused clearly on the future without ever forgetting the past. We keep planning and moving forward. Nobody has to tell us. We know that people are counting on us to do the right thing. There are people counting on us to build that bridge, to get them to work or school, and return them home safely to their families. There are people counting on us to think about their needs. Oh, not just for today, but 10, 20, even 50 years from now. That is what we do. We are JTA.
Welcome back to Making Moves. JTA buses can do a lot of things, get you to work, school, shopping, you name it. But believe it or not, they can also help save lives. Take a look at this JTA bus outfitted with this huge red advertisement for the American Heart Association. The ad is promoting the Heart Association's annual Heart Walk and features First Coast resident Rosalind Bridges and her son Wesley, who is a heart disease survivor.
I think it's going to make a tremendous impact. You know, a lot of people don't even realize that the American Heart Association is right here on the First Coast. And so we want people to know that we are here. We are a local resource to you. If you need information about cardiovascular disease, about stroke, how you can prevent the disease, and what steps you can take if you have the disease, we're here, we're local.
If you want to get your message across, just like the Heart Association did, you can call our transit advertising representative at 236-4707 or check out our transit advertising page on the JTA website. And now it's time for final thoughts with Michael Blaylock.
Joyce, let's recap on the recent public forum we had with respect to the strategic plan, the consolidated plan. And I think that one of the things, or one of the questions that I heard a lot of people ask me as I talked to the different customers and stakeholders is, how are you going to pay for all of this, and where is the money going to come from? And I think that what we have to remember as a community is that if there is no vision, then there's no progress, and then there is no great city. And we all are aspiring to have an excellent city, excellence in everything that we do, whether it's the educational program, our job opportunity efforts, or our transportation network. They all fall as major priorities for this community. So we have to think in terms of the future. And for 57 years, the Jacksonville Transportation Authority has been on the cutting edge of thinking about the future. No, we did not have the money to build Danes Point when we originally started planning for that. We didn't have the money for Wonderwood, and we didn't have the money for Butler Boulevard. But all of those roads and bridge structures are built now, and they are vital links to our transportation network. So that's what we have to do. We as a community have to come together and have a unified vision first in terms of how we want to build out this community. And then I think we can collectively come together and put our heads together and come up with some solution on how it's going to get funded.
And that's why you like to keep JTA so transparent to the community. Well,
yeah, and you know, all that is really critically important, that they know what we're thinking. I mean, because you got to keep thinking. This agency brings a tremendous value, Joyce. Think about it. I mean, for the last 10 years, our capital road projects and our transit projects and our operating expenses basically provided some 3,000 jobs annually for the last 10 years. And that generated over $1 billion in wages and labor income. And notwithstanding all of the money generated for commerce and sales activities in our county as a result of the investments that have been made through that agency for the past 10 years. So it's incredible.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, Josh.
And that wraps up this edition of Making Moves. We hope you'll be joining us again real soon. If you missed any part of the show or just want to watch it again, complete episodes of Making Moves are always available online at jtafla.com. And of course, make sure to stay in touch with us on Facebook or on your YouTube channel, JTA 904. For Michael Blaylock and the entire Making Moves team, I'm Joyce Morgan Danford. We'll see you the next time we're Making Moves.